if you're efficient at it, you're going to make money at it. If you're not efficient at it, you might make some money, you might lose some money, you might lose your ass.
It's my favorite day of the week, guys. It's another Wednesday, which means it's another episode of the Skid Steer Nation podcast. Ryan Deemer here today, and we've got a gentleman from Wisconsin who, boy, I tell you what, he's in the firewood business, and I'm excited to have this conversation with Phil today. It's not a service you hear a ton of guys doing, but I think it's a great opportunity for expanding businesses, filler work, and all that, and we're going to dig into the firewood side of business with Phil today. Before I introduce him, I do want to remind all of you that this show is sponsored by none other than Skid Steer Nation. It's literally the name of the podcast. So for your skid steer attachment needs, head over to skidsteernation.com. Support small businesses. These guys are just like you, family-owned manufacturers. Build some really tough stuff. And if your business is not where you want it to be, excuse me, and you're looking to dominate your online presence and get some more leads and start being seen in your marketplace, and you want help with that, don't forget, guys, we launched Throttled Up Marketing a few months ago. It's been very successful. We've got quite a few new clients. It's been fun to work in something a little bit different than selling attachments, and I'm loving every minute of it. So if you guys want to work with me directly for all of your marketing needs, just head over to getthrottledup.com. The link is in the show notes, and schedule a call, and you'll speak directly to me, and we can see if we can help you out with your marketing needs. So, Mr. Phil Anderson, we have, oh, geez, I got so many pages open, I can't even find the right one. Phil's Firewood and Land Management. You're out of Clear Lake, Wisconsin.
Yep.
You started, what, 2017-ish?
Yeah, about 2017, I went full-time with it. Growing up, all through high school and stuff, I did landscape stuff as, weekend filler work and whatnot. Grew up a farm kid here in northwestern Wisconsin. Liked doing the landscape and stuff. 2008, I bought the property I'm at currently. I'm right on a major highway, so visibility isn't a problem for me. About 2010, somewhere in there, I started selling a little firewood. Just random cabin people saw my wood pile behind the garage for my own use. Stopped in, bought a pickup load here or there. That gradually grew to the point where when I left the weld shop back in 17, the wife said, well, you were putting 60 hours in a week at the weld shop and 40 hours on the weekends doing the firewood stuff. Let's see what we can do if we go full-time with the firewood thing. So, and here we are.
Well, I'll tell you what, Phil, I was looking at like your Facebook profile for your business and your personal. And when I think of like a excavation company that does firewood, that's not what I expected. Like you've got like a legitimate firewood processing site. I mean, that's over an acre of property you've got with just wood stacked and processing, don't you?
Yeah, my main my property is 3.3 acres. I got 650 feet of highway frontage. Basically, my main processing yard is the south half of my lot. So it's an acre and a half, just short of 2 acres. And that's where most of my wood comes in and goes out of. Nice thing is, there's only one driveway in, one driveway out, and I got to drive right past the house to get back there, so it's real easy to secure it. I never had any intentions or any idea that the firewood stuff would get as huge as it did. When I went full-time with stuff back in 17, the plan was do skid steer work, excavation work all summer long, do firewood as filler work in the winter. And that went on 17, 18, 19, even into early 2020. It was a pretty even split. Then COVID hit. Everybody was either camping or sitting around backyard campfires or working from home, so they were using a fireplace, and the firewood stuff just exploded.
Yeah. We bought a camper because of COVID, so I totally get it.
Yep.
But, I mean, I'm like looking at the photos from your profile again. Like, I mean, you literally have, I'm going to say the word mountains, but you've got a ton of piles of already pre-split wood that's drying out, and then it was the piles of logs that you hadn't touched yet, or you've just got them cut to length. I was like, holy cow, this guy has got a lot of wood.
Yeah, 2020 and 2021 were my two biggest years on the firewood stuff, and each one of those years was close to 1,000 cord of wood come through here. And for those that don't know what a cord of wood is, average semi-load is 10 to 12 cord. So I had somewhere in a ballpark of 90 semi-loads of wood sitting here.
Sitting there.
Yep.
Wow. I guess my first question, just because the proper word is ignorant. When you're not educated on something, you're ignorant. It's not a slur. So, but I'm ignorant on the whole firewood business. So to me, it's like, man, how do you get the wood and where are you getting that from? Are you dealing with land company? Like, just that part of it seems hard, and then reprocessing it and selling it. Can you just kind of walk me through what a firewood business does?
When I started out, I was clearing fence lines for farmers and stuff. I grew up a farm kid, so I knew all the farmers in the area. And every farmer I knew had the same problem. They had, the fence lines and the field edges just kept growing in and in on themselves. So they were always looking for somebody to come out and cut firewood. Well, I did that for quite a few years, close to 10 years of just going out, cutting wood off of fence lines, bring it home, cut it, split it. Most of my splitting was done during spring mud season, which here in western Wisconsin, that starts some years as early as February, and some years doesn't dry up until the 4th of July.
Right.
So, that's how it all kind of started. As it grew, I realized there wasn't enough hours in a day to do everything. I couldn't go out, cut the tree down, haul it home, split it up, sit on it for the 9 months to a year, whatever, and then turn around and deliver it. So I started buying from loggers, and I'm in a real unique position. I'm kind of on the edge of kind of the Wisconsin Northwoods and farm country. So there's plenty of small loggers around me. They farm in the summer, they log in the winter, whatever. I'm close, so they can truck it here pretty cheap. In this day and age, freight is what kills everything. But so the last bunch of years, I've bought everything trucked in. Here in Wisconsin, 8-foot lengths is pretty common when you're buying what they consider pulp sort wood, which is your smaller diameter logs.
What type of wood are you primarily getting? What species?
You name it, I get it. Normally, the loggers I work with, they'll call me up when they've got a bunch of wood sitting, and it'll either be a mix of hardwoods or it'll be all oak, or if for the smoking wood customers, the guys with the big barbecues and stuff, they're looking for hickory and cherry and whatnot. Campfire wood in the summertime, it's pine and whatever other scrub wood I can get a hold of. So, I process pretty much anything that grows here in northern Wisconsin. The exception being walnut. I don't get it because every last little stick of walnut, they take it down to nothing and make cutting boards out of it.
Yeah. So do you find that to be is managing the loggers a simple process, or is that a full-time job in and of itself?
When I first started dealing with the loggers, it was pretty time-consuming sorting out the guys that are straightforward, honest, and the guys that are kind of fly-by-night. It didn't take me real long to sort out the guys that are worth dealing with and the guys that aren't. The last few years, I've basically had 3 or 4 regular suppliers that brought me wood, and those guys were all the type of guys that they'd get a couple loads sitting on a site someplace. They'd call me and go, "This is what I've got. You want any of it?" They'd give me a price, and away we go.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take long when you run a business the right way. And I'm not talking just bookkeeping and that stuff. When you're honest with people and straightforward with them, it doesn't take long to develop relationships that don't take a whole lot of time.
No, it doesn't. And I'm glad you brought that up, Phil, because I feel like just being a good person takes you a long way in life.
Oh, yeah. That's definitely big.
Yeah. Honest, trustworthy. We complicate things more than we need to most times.
Yep. Yeah, there's a lot more value in word of mouth and a good reputation than there'll ever be in, fancy billboards and fancy wrap pickups and everything else. You do an honest job, you charge an honest rate for it, and it goes a long way.
Mm-hmm. Nope, 100%. All right, I'm still learning this whole process here. So you're primarily now bringing in lumber from loggers or larger companies or companies that need to get rid of wood. Once you get that, are they already like delimbed and cut at 8-foot sections, or are you having to do all that yourself?
Typically, what I get that comes in is 8-foot logs, delimbed. I buy a lot of what they consider hardwood pulp, which is typically a 4 to 12 inch diameter log. It might be a little crooked or something. That product, if I didn't use it for firewood, would typically go to a mill and get chipped up for paper or cardboard. Once the logs come in, I've got, well, you were telling me before we went live, we got, you've seen pictures of the log pile stacked up in my yard. Most of the loggers I work with truck with self-loading, self-unloading trailers. So they got a grapple on the trailer. They can stack it 30 feet high. And then I did most of my processing. Once I started buying logs, I did most of my processing with a Halverson processor on the front of the skid steer.
That was my next question, is how are you processing?
That Halverson, you're just sitting in a cab pushing buttons. And then I had a Wolf Ridge firewood conveyor, which is actually designed from the ground up to be a conveyor for cut and split firewood. I just process into the hopper of that. The conveyor had its own power pack and everything right on it. So then I'd have piles of split firewood that were 18 feet tall, 20 feet tall, whatever it was. And it was all run it from the cab of the machine. About the only time I'd have to get out of the machine was, if I had a jam on the conveyor, I'd have to hop out and flip it in reverse, clear the jam, and jump back in the machine. But there were days I'd sit in the machine nonstop for 6-8 hours at a stretch.
And I'm assuming you just leave it in those piles, like you're not stacking and all that after it's split.
Oh, if I stacked everything that I processed, I'd still be stacking wood from 2019.
That's what I figured.
Yeah, I do use the IBC cages a lot. That's become pretty common in the firewood business. And, that's the IBC totes, that works really well for my customers that just come and pick up on a Friday on the way up to the cabin, drop the empty off on Sunday on the way back to their place in the cities. But the bulk wood, it just sat in a great big pile all summer long. Yeah. And my yard being wide open to the sun and the wind, I never really had too much issue with it because it dried out nice.
Yeah. Do you also do you have a little bin set up on your property that for campers or passerbyers to be able to grab a small amount of wood?
Yeah, I actually, a lot of guys that use the IBC totes are always complaining about how to get rid of the plastic liners out of them because, well, they're plastic liners. They don't breathe. They don't what have you. They hold water. So what I do with a lot of the plastic liners is I'll knock some drain holes in the bottom and cut the tops out and fill them with wood. Or I'll take the liners and I'll cut them completely in half, so I've got 2 halves and fill those up. Okay. So when a customer stops by here, I don't do the shrink wrap bundles like you see at a lot of the gas stations. I do a cubic foot mesh bag, kind of like an onion bag. I've got those. I've got the half totes full of wood. I've got the full totes full of wood. And it's just nice, steady cash flow throughout the year. In the summertime, it's the campfire wood. They'll grab a half a tote or they'll grab a full tote or whatever, toss it in the back of their truck, toss it in the back of their SUV, whatever. In the wintertime, it's more hardwoods for heating and fireplaces and whatnot. Same deal there. I offer that in the cubic foot bags for somebody that just wants enough for their ice fishing shack for the day or all the way up to full totes if they're looking to get a couple of weeks of use out of a fireplace.
Right. How many of those bags do you go through a year?
Well, I bought 1,000 of them back in September, and I think I've got about 100 left.
Wow. That's impressive, man.
Yeah, I mean it's just like anything else. If you've already got the raw product, it's a matter of how do I package this to increase my margins.
Yeah.
You can buy a quad axle dump truck load of clean stone for $500. You turn around and sell it by the half yard skid steer bucket for $40 a crack. You're making some money at it.
Well, a friend of mine, they built a gravel quarry. And one of the things we were looking into is taking some of the smooth polished river rocks and putting them in like little bags, like less than a pound, and trying to figure out how to get them distributed through like Walmarts for decorative rocks because like the money, like, yeah, you sell it for $1, but how many of those bags can you get out of a ton versus selling a ton for a couple $100?
Well, yeah, those bags average 20 pounds a bag. So on a ton, you're talking 100 bags.
Right. Yeah.
And yeah, the gas stations that have the pallets of landscape product, I mean, you're $3-4 a bag for mulch or whatever. Mm-hmm. But that's all a matter of knowing your customer base. You package a size product that the average DIYer wants to buy.
Right.
That's what I learned real quick doing the little bit of landscape and dirt work stuff in the summertime was I had all sorts of customers calling me, hey, any chance you'll deliver a cubic yard of topsoil or a cubic yard of clean stone or gravel or whatever, because they wanted to do it themselves, but they didn't necessarily have a way to go get the product.
Yeah.
And most guys around me didn't want to mess with the little loads, so I'd get, a lot of times what I'd do is in the spring of the year, I'd get, 21, 22 ton quad axle dump truck loads brought in, and I'd just split it up and haul it with a 1 ton dump truck.
So you'd get bulk delivered to your property and then break it up for customer needs.
Yep. Yeah, that.
If you have the space, that's so smart.
Well, and that's just it. I mean, it doesn't even really take that much space on a lot of that stuff. It's being in a position where people see it. Yeah. And, the little bit of landscape and stuff I do anymore, that feeds the firewood side of things almost more when it comes to the bottom line, because I'll go out and, somebody will want me to regrade their backyard. Well, they got a fire pit back there. Well, first thing they see on the side of the truck is Phil's Firewood. Guess who they call when they're ready for, a load of campfire wood for the summer or
Absolutely.
A load of fireplace wood in the fall.
So what do you do for your customers? Like if a customer orders and he's going to order enough to get through the whole winter for his home, do you just take your truck and like dump it right out of the bed, or like what's the process for you delivering to customers?
Yeah, when it comes to the fall deliveries, my kind of fall busy season normally starts around the 1st of August. And they'll call and, they'll want, most of my customer base uses roughly 2 full cord a year. So I've got a 5500 Ram. I custom spec'd it just for hauling firewood. I can put 2 full cord on the back of that truck and deliver it. Normally in the fall, I'm about a week out on deliveries. So they call, they schedule it. I'll shoot them a text message, give them a phone call night before, show up that day. I normally schedule about a half-hour delivery window just because you never know when you're going to run into traffic or here in farm country get stuck behind a tractor for 5 miles. And it's typically pull in, I dump it, they hand me the cash or a check, and down the road I go to the next one.
Got it.
I load with the skid steer with a rock bucket on it so I can shake a lot of the small debris and stuff out of it, so it's a fairly clean delivery when they get it. They're not getting a half a load of bark and dirt from scooping out of the big piles, and it just works.
And it sounds like you're in quite a few Facebook groups about firewood. And because of this business, my takeaway is that you are getting so many questions about how you're doing this and processing it and doing it with so few employees that it actually kind of led you to start offering consulting services.
Yeah, I launched North American Firewood Consultants about a year ago. I mean, I'd have just about every fall I'd have a dozen different guys reaching out looking for advice on how to go from their 20, 30, 40 quart a year hobby operation to a little higher volume, or transition from part-time to full-time with it. Most manufacturers are going to try to sell you the biggest and the best and whatever else piece of equipment. And at that time, pretty much all the Firewood business advice was coming from equipment manufacturers. For the most part, those guys aren't out to really screw anybody, but like I said, they were always pushing towards, oh, well, you want to ramp up production, you get a bigger machine, you do this, you do that. They never really focused on, how do I do this efficiently? It was all about bigger machine, faster cycle, whatever, make a bigger pile. They never really took the time to go, okay, what are your actual goals? Are you even in a market where you can justify that size machine? Because there are a lot of guys I know, they're working in markets where their margin just after log cost and fuel, their margins are so slim, it takes them forever to pay off the big firewood processors. Some of those big processors now are over $250,000.
There.
You know, and when you're talking a piece of equipment like that, you really got to know your numbers.
You got to really be processing a lot of wood, too.
Well, yeah. And, I mean, firewood historically has been an industry really dominated by small-scale producers. Historically, you never heard of anybody doing 500 or 1,000 quart a year, and you definitely didn't hear about some of these bigger operations with multiple employees. Some of these guys are running 3,000 to 5,000 quart a year in firewood. Well, there's sawmills around me that don't mill 1,000 quart a year, let alone 3,000 or 5,000 quart a year into lumber.
Right.
So that's where the consulting side of things, I tell guys that reach out through that, we need to start by looking at what your market actually is. You know, not going rate for a pickup load of firewood that some guy, you know, cut and split last weekend wants to deliver this weekend. What kind of price point will your market actually support? And if you start there, then you can go, okay, well, how many quart a year do you want to do at this price point, at these margins? This is how long that piece of machinery's got to last you to pay back.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of options when it comes to firewood equipment. If you really want to start digging into it, I run a lot of Wolfridge stuff over the years, and I think just in their horizontal splitter catalog, I think there's like 80 different models and options and everything else, you know, different configurations. You start looking at processors, well, now the number of options and configurations, there's hundreds of options out there. So that's where the consulting side, we really look at, okay, what will your market support for price? What raw product are you getting into process? What's your final product going out? And most importantly, at the end of the day, does this make any sense? Are you going to have enough margin to actually continue to grow, or are you just playing with a big wad of cash?
Right. And I just want to kind of reiterate too, like your process of don't worry about the guy next door, figure out what the market in your area dictates for price, for need, all of that. Like that, you can take that same concept to any niche of excavating services. It doesn't have to be for firewood.
Oh yeah, I see it all the time in the skid steer groups and the excavating groups. Guys are always asking, what's going rate for this? What's going rate for that?
I had to turn off the notifications to my own group because I couldn't handle it. It's so bad. So bad to say, but
it's like guys quit worrying about the going rate for doing a job. Yeah. Figure out what it costs you to do the job and what you need for a margin.
You want to know what my pet peeve is in these groups, Phil? it's the guy that wants the advice, but all he does is take a screenshot of his chicken scratch and say, what would you guys charge? I'm like, if you really want someone to take time and give you their fucking opinion, then take the time and lay it out and give them all the details. Like, it drives me crazy.
I don't know which one's worse, those guys or the guys that ask for advice, get 30 guys agreeing on the same advice, and then they still don't follow it.
Right.
You know, how do I go about doing this? Everybody says, this is how you do it. Oh, well, I'm going to do it this way. You know, I'm not...
Because 30 guys got to be wrong, right?
I've always been a big one to say the most dangerous saying in business is this is the way we've always done it. But you know what? There's certain things that work a certain way.
Yeah.
You know, don't do a complete 180 and then wonder why it didn't work.
Yeah, like if you're going to do a proper grading job on a roadway, you got to grade the sub base before you lay the new rock. I mean, because the potholes don't go away just because you fill them up, and that's like you're not going to change that process, right? That's just how it goes. So again, it's the way you always did it, but it's probably the right way.
Well, and then you got the flip side of that coin. The last 5 years, I swear to God, everybody's answer to any grading project is get out the Harley rake. How do I fix this? Oh, get out the Harley rake. Harley rake ain't going to do anything for the potholes in the road base. Harley rake's just going to make it look pretty for a week.
Yeah, and that's just it, right? There's 17 ways to skin a cat in this industry. I mean, whether you just use a bucket or a grader or a Harley rake or a land leveler or a ripper, I mean.
There's a reason why if you Google land planes, you got about 1 million different options and 1 million different designs and everything else. I mean, there's applications for all that stuff. So it all comes down to, do you want to do it way A, B, C, or D? Do you want to try to get attachments that do the job the best, or do you want to try to get attachments that do a lot of different jobs halfway decent?
Right.
You know, it's all about having. I know a lot of guys, they advertise land clearing and grading and septic and landscaping and this and that and everything else. Well, they've got themselves spread so thin trying to be a jack of all trades that they're really not that good at any particular one of them. You know.
Yeah, and like we always use septics as the example, but if you go like you personally, right? Like you could do a septic system even though you don't do them. I mean, you've got the knowledge and the equipment. But if you did one on a property and the people next door were getting one done by a company that only did septic systems, I bet he smokes you by 40, 50% in time.
I've always told people my knowledge of septic is shit rolls downhill.
Right.
You know,
but again, like like if I could split a pile of firewood from start to finish right next to you, and I'll guarantee it'll be half as tall as yours because that's all you do. Like you've got the system down pat. I got to learn it, tweak it, play with it.
Yeah, I mean, when I was doing the landscaping stuff, you know, it was all stuff that was right in line with what I was doing on the firewood end of things. You know, the firewood end of things was you know, clearing land and grade it back out when you're done. Well, then most of the landscape jobs I did were half day or full day regrading the backyard. You know, house was built in the 80s or 90s, stuff had settled, they never touched it. You know, go in, rip it all out, grade it all back out, cedar back down for lawn, and take the money and run. Yeah. You know, so, I mean, I could go into a property that needed a yard regraded, and I rarely had 2 days into it. Versus some of these guys that try to do a little bit of everything, they'd struggle with that same yard for 2 or 3 days. Like you said with the septic stuff, I have no desire to get into septics because I know 3 guys in the area that are second generation. Actually, I think the one guy now is third generation septic installers. Those guys are in and out so quick, and they are so good at what they do. Anybody asks, you know, who do I call for septic? I go, here, call these 3 guys.
Yeah. I got friends here, like they've like it's been over the last 4 years, like their business has kind of migrated as they've expanded services and figured out what they liked, right? So they went from like land clearing, general excavation to focusing on like pond construction, and then they got into septic. And then last year they were like, we're only doing septic. And like they say no to anything else that's not septic related. And just the time studies from year one to this year of how much more efficient and it's a 2-man crew. You know, they can remove and replace a septic system and be in and out in a lot of cases 1 day, sometimes a day and a quarter. But I mean, I was like, that'd be a 3-5 day project if I tried to do it.
I'd be there the whole month of May, and then maybe you have to wrap up in June.
Yeah. No, but it's just being able to get so good and find the efficiencies in whatever service you're going to be a master in your area. Like for you, it's firewood.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, efficiency is the key to everything. You know, it doesn't matter what business you're in. You know, if you're efficient at it, you're going to make money at it. If you're not efficient at it, you might make some money, you might lose some money, you might lose your ass. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that's where I've had so many guys on the firewood side of stuff, they go, how in the heck do you do all of that by yourself? And I go, well, for starters, I didn't drink the Kool-Aid and just buy big equipment. You know, I focused on what made sense for what I had coming in, what I wanted to put out.
Yep. Started with the end goal in mind.
Well, yeah, you have to. If you don't have an end goal, like for me, when I went full time with the firewood stuff, the first year, the goal was to have enough money that I didn't starve to death that winter. You know, then about year 2 or 3, then the goal became, okay, we build this to something that once the kids are all done with school, if they want to take it over, there's enough here for the 4 kids, you know. And that was the goal for a lot of years. Well, now the kids are all out of the house. The kids are all off doing their own thing. None of them want to come back and do the firewood thing. So now the end goal, retire, and retire young.
Well, I mean, just looking at the photos, right? Like, I can't imagine that that's not a sellable business.
The problem with a firewood business is firewood businesses are not typically sold as turnkey businesses. A lot of firewood guys over the years have tried to sell as a turnkey, and you get two groups of people looking at it. You get your average firewood guy looking at it going, hey, I can, you know, jump into this turnkey operation. I have no idea how to run a business that size. I have no idea how to come up with $1 million to buy a business that size. And then you've got the guys that are coming from more of a business world aspect, you know, kind of your investors. A lot of them don't know the first thing about firewood.
Right.
So they look at a firewood business and go, okay, yeah, the profit and loss sheet looks really good, the balance sheet looks really good, but how in the heck does this even remotely come close to making sense as a business, because it doesn't cash flow worth a hoot. You know, most of your firewood is just naturally seasoned out in the weather. Well, when you're talking your 9 months, 12 months, 18 months, sometimes even up to 24 months from when you buy that raw product until you're finally getting paid for it, most business people won't touch something that's that slow a turnaround.
Right.
You know, it's just like most of your excavators, unless they had a really good year so they need a tax write-off, they're not buying mountains of material in October, November as the season's winding down, knowing they're going to sit on it until April or May.
Yeah, unless they're spending money for tax reasons. You're correct.
Yeah. And it's I've had the business marketed now for over a year, and I've had a handful of people reach out about it, but it's all the same kind of people that just, they don't see a way to finance, you know, buying a turnkey business like that, because they're all coming from the firewood side.
Yeah, I mean, it's a niche, definitely a niche.
And I mean, excavating's a niche too, but at least in excavating, you've always got that chance that there's a bigger excavating company that wants to buy you out, primarily just so they don't have the competition.
To get you out of the way, yeah.
You know, unfortunately with the firewood thing, the next closest producer to me that was doing the volume I was doing is almost 2.5 hours away. And in the firewood world, you don't haul firewood 2.5 hours.
No.
You know, most of your firewood market is within an hour drive. I mean, I was a little different. I was hauling a lot farther than that because I was servicing both their home in the metro area and their cabin. Well, it was just a convenience thing for them. They're like, I can call one guy, deliver wood to both places, and then I'm set.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so there were times I'd cover 150, 200 miles from a delivery down in the metro to start the day to a delivery out at a cabin to end the day. And that's extremely rare in the firewood world.
Right. And then one of the other things I noticed that you're doing, and I'm assuming it's because of your welding background and then just your knowledge and engagement in the firewood industry, but it looks like you're creating biomass systems or some sort of like heating furnaces.
Quite a few years ago, I mean, this goes back over 20 years ago, I worked in a wood shop up north that bought all their lumber fresh milled. Well, they would do their own kiln drying, and they fired their commercial industrial lumber kiln off of their sawdust and wood scraps. You know, they were using a live steam boiler, you know, huge kiln. They were, if I remember right, that kiln was like 1 million board feet or 1.5 million board feet at a time, which, you know, it's roughly 5,000 board feet on a semi-load.
Right.
And I always thought, well, why don't firewood guys use their wood scraps to heat their firewood kilns? Firewood kilns, a lot of people go, why in the heck would you kiln dry firewood? But with all the invasive pest regulations out there now, you just about have to if you're shipping any distance. You have to heat treat it.
Right.
You don't actually have to dry it, but you have to get it to that 140 degree core temperature. So a few years ago, I started playing around with the idea of just take a big wood burning furnace, attach it to an insulated box, and see if we can get it hot enough. Well, I had a lot of guys go, oh, it'll never work. I tried it off of my boiler. I tried this. I tried that. It never worked. Well, part of my time in the weld shop, I spent 11 years as a heavy plate fabricator. We actually built ovens for carbon fiber panels. And we built huge portable job site heaters and that sort of stuff. So I knew the manufacturing side of making something hold heat. Then last winter, I finally got my first kiln certified with the state of Wisconsin for heat treat. And Wisconsin certification is the same standards as USDA. Okay. So I can actually heat treat wood and ship it anywhere nationwide.
Do you have to apply for the USDA separately from Wisconsin, or does that Wisconsin licensing just automatically apply for USDA?
It's a separate application, but basically what USDA does, you get your state certification first in most cases, and then you apply to USDA, and USDA will pull your records from the state as far as your actual physical certification run. Because the state comes out, they've got these cute little stainless steel temperature probes that you put in with a batch of wood. You put your temperature probes in with the same batch. You run it, they come back out, pull the data, and then they go, yep, you got it, or no, you didn't. I actually went one step further. I bought the exact same probes and software setup the state of Wisconsin uses for certifying. I bought the same setup for my own records.
Yep.
And then, of course, USDA, they want to make sure you're maintaining all your records and stuff. So I never did do a USDA certification because I didn't need one.
Yeah.
But the USDA guy I talked with, who's central Wisconsin, I can't remember, Marshfield, Wausau, somewhere over that direction, he said flat out, he says, the biggest thing is he says, you have to keep records. He says, because I will periodically shoot you an email, hey, send me a copy of your temperature records from the last batch you ran.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's mostly just paperwork, just like about 90% of the certifications out there are just the paperwork end of it. It's not actually verifying that you can do the job.
Right. Speaking of this biomass stuff, what is the hot blast furnace? I've seen it on your page. I'm just
what I wanted to do with Anderson Biomass Systems, which is my kiln company. What I wanted to do with that is I wanted to develop a kiln that a firewood guy could build himself with basically off-the-shelf components.
Huh.
I'll be building complete turnkey units as well, but everything I'm building is scaled down for these smaller scale producers that can't justify the $100,000 investment in a commercial kiln. The hot blast furnace I chose to use is just a regular residential heating wood burning furnace, wood burning hot air furnace. I chose that one because United States Stove Company, who makes hot blast, is by far the most readily available wood burning furnace in the country. You can walk into Lowe's, Home Depot, Tractor Supply, just about anywhere and order this furnace.
Okay.
Cost-wise, it isn't exactly the cheapest furnace on the market, but it is by far the most readily available wood-burning furnace. The rest of the kiln is all, it's residential steel stud frame, it's residential fire-rated or commercial fire-rated insulation. It's all stuff that anybody can walk into a major chain home store and order. What I wanted to do was go, okay, you guys have the ability to build these, but you're not sure where to start. You can order a set of measured drawings from me with build instructions, reference drawings, material list, the whole 9 yards. You order it from me, they're $400 to $500 depending on which model you're looking at currently, because I've got 3 models available that a guy can order plans for currently, or I can do a custom set of drawings. Like my kiln that I certified last winter, it started out life as a 28-foot refrigerated van body off of a straight truck. Like you see food service delivery or dairy delivery trucks running around with.
Yeah.
So I can customize a set of plans for a guy if he wants to build one based off of an insulated van box or off of a shipping container or what have you. But it's all smaller scale stuff. It's geared towards the guys that are doing it as a side thing. They want to start, shipping some bundles to one of the chain stores, so they need that heat treat certification, what have you. Mm-hmm. And it was just a part of the market that I felt wasn't served by the big manufacturers.
Well, I noticed that you've got a video, like somebody posted a video on YouTube, this guy Back 40 Firewood, about the hobbyist firewood kiln by Anderson Biomass Systems, and it's already got over 10,000 views since January 26th.
Yeah, Back 40 Firewood is actually, his yard's only about an hour from me, and he's got quite a following on YouTube.
Has that video drummed up any interest for you? Like, have you been getting calls and emails over this?
Oh, the first 48 hours after he put that video on YouTube, I think I had like 8,000 views on my Facebook page or something ridiculous. It was nuts. It seemed like everybody that watched the video went right over to my Facebook page. The kiln I took down for him to test is actually one of my crazy ideas I had. I'm going, okay, if we can't compete with the big guys on the volume you run through, how fast can we get a small scale kiln to actually heat treat wood? Heat treating wood is all about putting heat to it as fast as you can, get it up to temperature. But you've got to be kind of careful because, well, firewood's flammable. So you can't just blast it with, 1,000 degrees and not expect to make charcoal. And that prototype I sent them, I actually did turn a batch into charcoal in that when I was doing some of my first testing on it. But a lot of firewood guys, they don't have natural gas access. They don't have power access where their firewood yard actually is. So I'm currently developing a radiant heat treat kiln, and that's kind of the proof of concept prototype I took down to him. That one does have a blower fan on it for additional air circulation, but he makes, his big thing is ask about my tiny wood. He does a lot of that real small firewood for the tabletop fire pits.
Okay.
And I mean that's his niche in the market. His average order for that stuff is like 1 cubic foot. He tosses it in a box and ships it UPS wherever. But so that prototype I took to him was geared towards that really small firewood, whether it be the tabletop fire pits, the little backyard wood-fired pizza ovens, that sort of stuff that takes that really small split firewood. I'm hoping here there's a firewood show in Eau Claire, Wisconsin in June, Midwest Firewood Frenzy. I'm hoping to have my production version of that prototype at that show. It'll be all completely natural draft, no electricity requirement, and you're going to be burning your wood scraps to heat it. Because making firewood, you always end up with scraps.
Yeah. What I love about what I'm hearing today from you is, you've gotten into this niche with firewood. You've developed or cemented into some communities online. And then with your knowledge base and skill sets, whether it be from welding, farming, or this, like, without thinking, how can I make money off these guys? You started thinking, how can I help them make more money for themselves? Like with the kilns and the consulting. And I find like we're kind of kindred spirits in that regard.
Well, and that's just it. I mean, I've got to make my dollar too, but I don't need to make $5 off of everybody. A lot of what holds back firewood guys is just the cost of the equipment. And most firewood guys, either they know how to build stuff themselves or they've got connections. It's just like you talk to anybody in the dirt work world. They know a concrete guy, they know an asphalt guy, they know a framer, they know a roofer. Any of your kind of trade-based businesses, your blue-collar businesses, we all know somebody. And my goal with the whole firewood thing, whether it be the consulting side or whether it be the kiln side, my whole goal was, hey guys, you can do this. This is, here's how you start. The kiln plans, I've told everybody flat out, I said, you don't have to go out and buy a brand new wood burning furnace for this. Jump on Facebook Marketplace. These are the older models you're looking for, that'll do the same thing. I've kind of geared this whole thing towards trying to keep it attainable for the average firewood guy. I've got, at one point, I had damn near $250,000 worth of equipment sitting here just to do firewood. Do you need to spend that kind of money to do firewood? God, no.
No.
But, it adds up quick. So if I can get 6 producers this year to build their own kilns and get rolling with it, and it helps them, get into a little higher margin market or expand their delivery radius. That's kind of my whole goal with this, is to help these guys realize, hey, I can do this. I can actually make money at this.
That's so awesome. So what's next on your agenda? I mean, we're going to go from firewood company to consultant to manufacturer. What's in the back of that brain there, Phil?
Well, the beauty of it is the manufacturing side. I know enough different weld shops that are always looking for a little extra work.
Yeah.
I'm going to be focused on the engineering, the prototype testing, the marketing, the sales, that sort of stuff. Because I'm going to be, well, I just turned 41 here, so, and I spent 11 years in a heavy plate weld shop. I spent a couple years before that in a truck shop. I've spent the last bunch of years bouncing around the cab of a skid steer. My body's pretty well shot. So I've got to figure out how to help these guys without actually being out there running log splitter for them. As far as what else is coming, who knows? I might, I've always joked I'm going to start an OnlyFans and I'm just going to walk around Home Depot and Lowe's showing videos of ceiling fans, but I don't know if I'd actually make anything at that.
Oh my God. You never, I'll tell you what, the dumbest ideas people joke about, you can go find somebody making a ton of money. It's crazy.
Oh,
who the hell pays these OnlyFans models? Like, I don't get it, but.
Well, I mean, a fool and their money will soon be parted, I guess. So all you got to do is find somebody dumb enough. No, I mean, it's time for me to kind of take a step back from working so hard. I've got, the kids are kind of scattered. The closest one moved 45 minutes away. So, I mean, get around and spend time with the kids, do a little more hunting and fishing. Bought a property up north to actually, get away from everything. I absolutely love it. I walk in the cabin up there, my cell phone never rings.
So you said that before. It's Cable, Wisconsin, right? Is where you're going?
Yep. We joke, the locals around here, we joke that's the land of fat tire bikes and skinny skiers, because that's the home of the American Birkebeiner, and the cross country skiers can't cross country ski in the summertime, so it's turned into a lot of mountain biking and the fat tire bikes and that stuff. And I already found out which cafe the locals go to that the people out of the cities avoid. That's the one that has the cash only sign on the door.
Yep. Those are my favorite places.
So,
we used to go up to Mercer and like Turtle Bay Flowage and Willow Flowage and all that. Like, so they're all an hour away from.
It's Cable, Wisconsin. Everything's an hour away from it.
Right. That's awesome.
It's not the middle of nowhere, but you can see it from there.
You can see it from there. Man, were you able to see? My friend lives in Eagle River, Wisconsin, just basically straight east of you, right? I think you're about the same height, the same latitude, longitude.
Eagle River would be a little to the northeast. I'll actually be up there. I'll be up there, the 22nd of March, I think it is. A buddy of mine, you want to talk about a niche market. He recreates historical axe handles.
Wow.
And, I mean, he's like, I never would have thought this would take off like it has, and it's been nuts. So I'm going to go up there the 22nd. He's having an open house because he finally actually opened a physical showroom for this stuff. So I'm going to be up there. And, yeah, that's, northwest. Eagle River is about northwest of me, maybe 45 minutes. Probably, the way the crow flies, it's probably only 20 miles, but there ain't a straight road up there.
Right. But so you probably had an amazing view of those northern lights a few months ago, too, then.
Well, the nights that weren't cloudy, I mean, I wasn't able to go up there and see it, so I was stuck at home seeing it.
He sent me some photos, and I was like, wow.
Yeah, the pictures were... Pretty much everybody, the pictures were better than what it was in person, but it was still pretty cool.
Yeah. Down here in Illinois, you could, vaguely see them. But if you did a long exposure photo, they looked great. So people are like, I saw the Northern Lights. I'm like, no, you didn't. You took a picture and looked at a photo of the Northern Lights. You did not see the Northern Lights.
Well, if you're in Illinois, isn't the Northern Lights the Chicago Metro?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's the northern murder sirens too.
Yeah. We love people from Illinois. They all come up here and spend their money on the weekends.
So, I mean, being from Illinois, and I grew up in Rockford, Illinois, so it was only like 30 minutes from the Wisconsin border. So we spent a lot of time up in the Wisconsin area. We had friends in Sheboygan, and we'd all go visit and stuff. But, yeah, they always called us fibs. Fucking Illinois bastards.
Well, it could be worse. I mean, being as close as we are here to the Minneapolis-St. Paul metro area, we call them mud ducks when they come across the river on the weekends.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, it's just such beautiful country up there, and if it wasn't so damn like in my 30s, I would have loved moving there. Now I'm like, it's just too cold in the winter. I'm getting thin skin the older I get.
Well, and I'm the other way around. I can't stand the heat in the summertime. After all them years in the weld shop in the summers, it's 85 degrees and 90% humidity, and you're hugging a 400 amp welder all day long. I can always put more clothes on, but I strip too many off and I get a ticket.
Yeah, and I get a ticket. I love that. That's funny. Funny. Oh, man. Well, I can't thank you enough for taking time on today and sitting down. And I learned a ton about the firewood industry, which is, I always love learning new stuff.
Now you can go out and start a firewood business, too, to add to your marketing and your attachments and everything else.
I will not be doing that. No, I want to get this, like, for me personally, man, like, we've got a couple more months of me spending a lot of hours on the back end of the marketing company and getting the team the right processes and task management and visibility on stuff. And then hopefully I'm going to be able to excuse a majority of my time from that. And then I've got this software that I really want to get out there for guys to help them with their estimating and like have them eventually grow it into like a hub to help run businesses. That's kind of where my passion's sitting right now.
There is definitely, I feel there's definitely a need for a user-friendly software program for guys. Because let's face it, I would venture to guess over half of us that are doing dirt work did not come from a computer background.
Right.
I've had people ask me how long it took to build my website, and I said, well, it took me about a half hour when I first met with my web designer, and it took me another half hour when he was done to show me how to use it. I am not a computer guy. I'm not a tech guy. So you have fun with the software stuff.
Well, it's just, I mean, because we do consulting with Groundbreaking Growth as my division, a company for the consulting for excavation companies. And like I can't tell you how many estimates I've reviewed from different guys from across the country, right? And it was mind-boggling to me that somebody could, like, literally on one line of an invoice, like a spreadsheet, right?
Yeah.
Lay rock, insert culvert, do this, $7,500. And I'm like, as a consumer that owns a home, they don't know a damn thing of what you wrote down.
Yep.
Like, you're not educating them at all. You're not helping yourself close this deal. And I'll never forget, my buddy Eric sent me 3 invoices. We talked about it just a few weeks ago on the podcast too, but it was a $4,500, a $6,000, and like a $9,000, all for the exact same job.
Yeah.
And the customer took the $9,000 one because it was the only one that actually described what the hell he was going to do on the job.
Yeah, I mean, it's you've got to build confidence with your customer.
Yeah.
One way or another. And I mean, I used to do, when I was doing landscaping projects, I mean, I did big time detailed estimates. And the customers that actually asked questions were the ones I wanted to work with. The customers that just looked at the number on the bottom corner of the page were not the ones I really wanted to deal with.
Yep.
Because if all they looked at was the bottom corner and saw the total price, that's what they were shopping on, was price. They weren't looking for quality. They weren't looking for somebody knowledgeable. They were looking for somebody cheap.
Right. And you know the old saying, right? You can have cheap, fast, or good. Pick 2.
Yep, pretty much.
Yeah.
One of my most worn out T-shirts still says, "Skilled labor ain't cheap, and cheap labor ain't skilled."
Yeah, I like that one. I like the shirt you're wearing today. I don't know if you chose that on purpose today or if it just kind of worked out this way. But for those guys not watching video, he's got a big saw blade, and right in the middle of it says "Sawdust is man glitter."
Well, this is one of my Wolf Ridge hoodies. I joke, my Caterpillar hats averaged me about 40,000 a piece, and my Wolf Ridge hoodies averaged me about 12,000 a piece. So
yeah. Do they sell those? My father-in-law's a woodworker. That would be great for a Christmas gift.
Yeah, they've got, as far as I know, they've got all their merch on their website, wolfridgemfg.com. They've got their skid steer attachments on there. They've got their log splitters.
Maybe we'll have to see about making them part of the Skid Steer Nation family.
I'll tell you what, I was lucky enough to be one of the beta, or I guess I was the alpha tester. I was the first idiot to try it. Their quote-unquote medium-duty grapple bucket is built heavier than about 3/4 of the heavy-duty grapple buckets out there.
I bet.
We beat the snot out of that on a 259 D3, and they were planning on marketing that for small frame skid steers.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Huh.
Yeah, we were out knocking over 4-inch saplings and 3 inches of frozen ground with it that day, and it held up.
Huh. Oh, they even sell your packaging to help you package for your bags.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome. Very neat. Oh, they're just right up there in Wisconsin, too.
Yep. Right nestled between, well, I think it's technically an Eau Claire address, but they're right between Eau Claire and Chippewa Falls.
Yeah, and they only do firewood stuff, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Chris started that company out of his garage. God, I'm trying to remember how many years ago it was. But there again, another one of them American manufacturers, family-owned business, and they are huge on customer support.
It's always awesome when you find a company like that you work with and enjoy working with, like for you as a consumer.
Yeah, they're the whole crew down there is a bunch of great guys. So,
very awesome, man. Very awesome. Well, sir, I don't want to keep you all day. It's Friday. I'm sure there's some tea or lattes or something to get crack-a-lacking on.
My Folgers, because I don't get into the fancy coffees.
Yeah, some Folgers. That's all I ever drink too. My father, I don't know, I just grew up with it, so I still drink it.
Every now and again, when I feel brave and want to try something different, I crack open some Maxwell House. But otherwise, it's them two.
I'll tell you what, Phil. Like when COVID hit and everyone was freaking out over toilet paper and all the consumable products, my dad, I don't know how many cans of Folgers coffee he had in the basement, but it was more than a dozen. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, well, if they can't get it, if I can't get it and we can't get to the store, I'm like, you're not worried about toilet paper? He's like, I can take a shower, but I got to have my coffee.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, after he passed away, I was drinking his Folgers coffee for like a year. And I'm like, this is insane. Like, how many of these things do we have?
Sounds to me like you need to drink more coffee.
Half a pot a day, man. That's it. I got the machine set up to do a half pot because if I make a full pot, I'll drink it, and then I get a little jittery at noon.
I'm about 3/4 of the way through my second pot for the day.
With your second pot? So I find if I drink too much coffee in the morning, I won't eat. And then the lack of food with all the caffeine, I just get a little... My ADHD really kicks in.
The old college diet don't work so good anymore?
Well, it's coffee, not beer, so no. I was on the college diet last night. I completely forgot to eat dinner.
The college diet, coffee in the morning, beer in the afternoon.
Coffee in the morning, beer in the afternoon, yeah. I didn't drink much coffee in college. It's like Diet Coke in the morning and beer in the afternoon, kind of, probably.
That explains a few things. Of course, you're in Illinois, so you guys are a little different down there.
We're a little different down here. Yeah. I tell you, I gave up soda. I don't know. I was in college. I gave up soda because I put that not freshman 15. It was the freshman 40. I put that on. So I went from like 240 to 280. And I was like, I got to get down a little bit. So I gave up soda and everything else. And I'll tell you what, like after not drinking it for 6 months, I don't like regular soda. I can just, I feel like I can chew on the sugar that's in it. So if I do have a soda today, it's always a Diet Coke, just because it's not, I don't feel like I'm chewing on it.
Well, I suppose I better get something accomplished here this afternoon. We could probably sit and BS all day, but nobody wants to listen to us two all day long.
I'll be shocked. We started doing some longer form, like getting into like an hour and a half, just because some of the conversations went off, and all the feedback was thank you, because they sit in the machine all day for 8 hours. So instead of having 45 minutes to 50 minutes, now they had an hour and a half, 2 hours to fill, and they were like, it was actually a really good response. I was kind of shocked by it. But no, guys, I am not doing Joe Rogan 3-hour podcasts. Don't even ask. That's a big format.
And if people want to learn more about the Firewood stuff, just give me a shout. We'll do her again.
So, yeah, I will. I mean, if we get some reach out, and we're also going to link your business Facebook page in the show notes. So if you guys want to go, send him a message, like his page, check out what he's doing, you guys will have access to him. Yeah. So I hope you the best this year with your business, and it keeps going the route you want it to go, and with your kilns and everything else. And thanks so much for taking time to educate me and hopefully some listeners on the firewood industry.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. Guys, until next week, don't forget, if you need help with those marketing services, in the show notes, Throttled Up Marketing, schedule a call. Let's talk about it and see how we can help you grow your business. See you next week, guys.